Hey there team, welcome back to the channel and welcome to my review of the finals. So this is a bit unusual, a bit outside of my wheelhouse, and it's a free-to-play game, so how does that really fit into my sort of price review model? Well, we're going to work it out because I've been playing the crap out of this game and it is so good. Steam tells me I've got 12 hours into it, and the way I would look at it, for those that aren't aware, the way I review, I don't write essays or anything like that. I don't have any time for all these bloody art students that write essays and think pieces. I'm just an idiot with a microphone, and I share my thoughts, and that's it. No script, no nothing. So this game's good, it's worth your time, it's worth your money, we'll put that at the front. But generally speaking, the way that we price on this channel is for every $5 I give a game, Australian, that is, I expect an hour of good gameplay back. And generally speaking, that puts AAA games, let's say, at 18 hours of investment. I think that's a pretty fairly low but reasonable bar to set. Anyway, so what do we do with free-to-play? The way I figure it is, in order to get a season pass, a battle pass, because that's got one of these as well, and I'm actually not against battle passes, we can have a talk about that. But in order to do that, that would set me back 15 bucks Australian. So I would say if you were going to put coin up for it, it would be the equivalent of, 3 hours spent, a $15 game, that sort of thing. So yeah, it passes that threshold with flying colors. Like I said, I've already done 12 hours and I'm not going to slow down. This accidentally jumped the review line because I am so hooked on it. I played this instead of playing other things. So that should give you a bit of an idea where we're at. So, what is the finals? The finals is a new PvP game, multiple squads fighting over, sort of controlling a vault. It's actually not very complex, which is sort of the beauty of it. Everything about it is distilled down to its finer points, which I love about gameplay design. I talk about this all the time. Complex is not necessarily better. I bounce off things like Dota and all that, which, I get that there's a complexity, but I also think there's a level that you just can't penetrate the game if you weren't in there from the beginning. Even things like Factorio, I know it's sacrilege to speak against Factorio, but it does sort of get so overwhelming that I think sometimes the fun thread gets lost in all the complexity. More busy simming something than actually making something packaged fun. So the finals is that sort of equivalent of just getting it really right. So essentially you're fighting over these like vault things, you take them to an extract, you protect the timer. Once the timer starts, it doesn't stop, and when it stops, it's sort of like musical chairs. Whoever has control over it, wins the extraction. So you get some really tense moments where you're trying to sort of snatch it off each other, but it just continues the original timer, however long that is, like 2 minutes or something, let's just say. So you can snatch it in the last 10 seconds if you manage to hold the button down for whatever it is, 5 seconds. So it makes for some pretty wild, bloody buzzer beater kind of plays, which is just the adrenaline rush that you want. As far as like class systems and all that, it's a 3-man squad. General quick play is just 3 squads of 3, but when you get into the actual tournament mode, which you play sequential matches in an elimination sort of split pot, it's 4 teams at a time, so the top 2 progress. So these mini tournaments going into the finals. So you pick your class out of 3 sort of presets, and I'm just heavy for life, and they let me be a big black beautiful woman. So let the boy role play how he wants, and that's what I want. Also, the different classes sort of have different specializations, so it's not just free for all for weapons. I think there's like 8 to 10 different weapons per set, and then you unlock them with progress points, but it doesn't take very long. Like, I've unlocked everything I could possibly really want to unlock, and I probably did that 6 hours in easily. But unlocking the actual functional, playable stuff won't take you very long, and then you've got premium currency for bloody battle passes and cosmetics and all that, but to be honest, I don't care about any of that. I was talking to one of the boys I was playing with, and he was getting, kind of just regurgitating the soundbite, bloody battle passes and all that. To which I said to him, well, what happens when your perfect game comes along? Because I mentioned Dota before, but things like that, War Thunder, whatever, there are these games that people play for thousands of hours. That's their game. That's all they're going to play until they die, for better or for worse. Is there such a harm in when you have that perfect game that was made for you, having things that you can buy like seasonal refreshes and cosmetics and all that sort of stuff? Like, I think maybe I just see it differently, but that's because I don't have a completionist mindset. I don't really have a gambler's mentality. I don't buy any of this crap ever, except in rare occasions like this, where I really, really like it, and I'm happy to throw some coin to the devs and support them and sort of just kind of get involved in that, be part of the fandom, dare I say. But anyway, that's just my sort of bloody normie take, which I'm sure will upset plenty of people. But as far as like paying to win or anything, it doesn't seem egregious. I think you can pay to advance your battle pass a few levels, but who cares? Who cares? If you love this game and you're playing it non-stop for the gameplay loop, you're going to get to the end of your battle pass before the end of the season anyway, so it doesn't matter. Anyway, I don't want to spend too much time on that. It's worth mentioning, but I'm sorry if you guys want me to do some big industry takedown. I don't really care. I think battle passes are fine. Arguably much better than what we had with loot boxes in the previous kind of half generation. The thing about this that I should really bring up is the different classes kind of represent different play styles. So you've got your Adderall fueled, like I can't watch COD footage, all this sliding, bopping and all. I'm getting too old, right? So if they want to go light, they can go them. They get a little trying to skill shot with a bolt action rifle. There's room for the modern kids that are, they drip fed bloody Adderall and all sorts of drugs. And then there's blokes like me that, I don't know, arguably, oh God, I don't want to sound like a wanker, but I enjoy a bit more of a cerebral play sometimes, to your tactics that goes beyond just ADS headshot popping. And that's where the heavy comes in, because you can get sledgehammers, you can get C4 explosives, all this, and all of the buildings in this game are 100% destructible. And it creates this, honestly, the way I look at it, it reminds me of the gimmick of Levolution of Battlefield and all that. And at the time, that was kind of world-changing and wild and a big step forward. But this is in that same space and gives me that same vibe, but that game level design is going from less of a static place and somewhere more interesting. So you'll go to these extraction points, and a lot of the item interplay, it's not just the heavy, but I do enjoy the heavy. Heavy also has flamethrowers and grenade launchers and friggin' machine guns, but they definitely lean into these sort of different archetypes. But a lot of you have like goo grenades, which create like instant walls quite easily, a lot of mines and all that. So a lot of the interplay around this is defending and attacking strong points in essentially a fully destructible scenario. So like if I created a scenario for you, like maybe there's a vault, I think is what they call it, or an extract, a cache out. Sorry, you take the vault to the cache out. I don't think vaults is not the best term for the first thing, but you deposit it. So say there's a team already there, you can see it marked on the BIP, and your little squad is going up to take them on. And mind you, I'm playing random. Often I'm playing on the Asian servers, so communication's not fantastic, to be honest. But at the same time, you can get away with it. I've also played with 3 stacks. I know I'm getting off track a little bit, but this is probably worth mentioning. I played with 3 stacks of friends, and you can really push that skill ceiling right up when you do have comms. So comms are king, but the game's still fun if you're playing with a bunch of dudes screaming at you in another language. There's no OCE servers, so that's more of an Australian problem, but I didn't really notice a lot of lag on the Asian servers. But anyway, so you've got your little 3 stack, you're going to this vault, it's already ticking, this time has already started, so that is going to cash out. Like I said, sort of like musical chairs, whoever's tagged at last gets it. So those blokes have probably fortified it, they're in the windows, they've placed their mines, their goo grenades, their strategies. And so like me as a heavy, I'm really big on the sledgehammer. You get like a hero ability, and the one I would use a lot is running through walls and just shoulder jamming through walls. And so you've got a few options. You could try going in through the windows, just going up the stairs and that sort of stuff, but you can get hosed by turrets and all sorts of stuff. They're going to be set up. You can come in through the ceiling. So if I jump mid special ability, I can do like a ground pound and just go straight through floors and that. So you could come in from the top of the roof, and you can use your pings to let the boys know what you're planning. And you could punch in on top of that floor, in this hypothetical scenario. Maybe it's near the ceiling. Alternatively, you can go from underneath. You could throw C4 against the roof or use the sledgehammer, and then for the next floor up, perhaps, maybe it's too far for C4, you can throw your rocket launcher up there, and you can bring the extract down to ground floor. So best laid plans, and it all happens so fast. These matches don't go for more than like 15-20 minutes, and they're kind of set for the time because of that timer. It doesn't get interrupted. So they're quick, they're punchy, they have a mid-level, I'm going with cerebral, but like a tactical layer about thinking how you're going to extract. When you get into sort of ranked tournament mode, you end up with 2 vaults at a time with 2 extracts. So trying to juggle that with 4 teams, it doesn't get too crowded, not really. So there is actually some mid-level strategic and tactical components to the game that doesn't get old. It is built into the loop. So yeah, just being an absolute agent of chaos and bringing these buildings down and blowing through walls and all that, it's very satisfying. It really is. And so far, now I'm sure metas will evolve and that, and I'm not really a bloody MLG kind of dude, right? I'm going to play this and then I'm going to go away and maybe I'll chip away at it over time and check in on seasons. But for now, in the original sort of zeitgeist, I'm really quite taken with it. But it is kind of cool that someone like myself, who's probably not going to win in a standing gunfight trying to bop headshots, I can instead try and kind of strafe around, dare I say, as a big lumbering giant menace with a sledgehammer. There is a sneaky, stealthy flank component to it, and then busting through walls to run down these little dudes. It's like, aha, I was counting your bullets. I hear you reloading, here comes the sledgehammer. So yeah, look, a real lot of fun, obviously heavily from the perspective of me, an old boy that you know, probably can't keep up with the modern shooters, but at the same time, in my experience, and I was playing with some of the other blokes, you know, we're all different age groups and all that, and the guys that aren't interested in sledgehammering and blowing up buildings, they're just enjoying being part of that dynamic environment, so they're enjoying fighting around the ruins more. They seem to be having a really good time as well. So not only is this just fundamentally quite solid with a very basic loop, you just bring in one weapon and a couple of gadgets and ability and you can swap one out mid respawn in a match. So like, you don't pick up weapons or anything like that. It's all very, very limited intentionally. And just this narrow distilled scope with incredibly tight controls and gameplay and mechanics and arenas that are the right size and at work. If it sounds like I'm gushing, it's because I am. This all comes together as just a really accessible, in the best term, not in this modern cop-out, we put colorblind mode bullshit in, but accessible in the fact that I reckon multiple generations of shooter fans will be able to play this, and if they keep the balance and all that right as people start to figure out what does what better, but if they manage to balance and nerf everything and keep it on an even keel, this is great. I can see bloody 40-year-olds playing against 20-year-olds and having an absolute gay old time. So yeah, that's kind of my review for it. I think this is really, really cool. At least in the early days, I'd be curious to see where it goes. And it certainly didn't hurt that like it got shadow dropped during the Game Awards, which in the scheme of Game Awards weren't that terrible. But that's another low bar, and that's another conversation for another time. Anyway, so they shadow dropped this at Game Awards, so I jumped on it, gave it a go, and I haven't looked back, and I would implore people to give it a go themselves. Where would I put this on the Scarlet List? I mean, I'll seed it. I'm treating it as the $15, 3 hours. A lot of that is just to make sure at least, it's like QA in a way, that at least it gives a minimum number of hours. Honestly, I'm going to put it at number 2. I am putting it under Sanabi and above Against the Storm. So yes, Scarlet really, really enjoyed his time with this, and which is wild because I don't really play these. I did comment to the boys at the time that it reminds me of the PUBG days, even though that's a very different comparison. But when PUBG came on the scene, and I managed to have Discords full of all sorts of dudes that I knew from work or that I'd served with and all that, and it was just one of those things, everyone got quite hyped and got around it. Even though different game, different mechanics and all that, but this idea of a multiplayer zeitgeist kind of grabbing the normie casual types, which is sort of what I am. I've been getting that experience and that feeling from the finals, and yeah, it's really worth checking out, especially if this is not something that you're normally into. I guess that's probably the really big takeaway, because I don't really play in that crap. I don't play Apex Legends or any of that sort of stuff or whatever they're playing these days, right? Counter-Strike 2, not interested, doesn't tickle me. This game, brilliant. So maybe give it a go if you're not even fence-sitting, if you're just not even interested. Anyway, team, I might just leave it there for the time being. I'll catch you guys on the next one.